Show. Of course, it's me, Bride West, your host, with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Greg Burrow from Dragons Are Comic and Fantasy, and Miss Anastasia Anderson. We are talking this week for Halloween. Happy Halloween, by the way.
Happy Halloween.
And we're going over the iconic horror hero Spawn.
Yeah.
Spawn, the Hell Spawn. Amazing character. Did we ever really just talk about his story real quick? Yesterday we were talking about how he came to be and what inspired him and his pulling up comics. But
yeah, we could probably do a very short TLDR.
In a nutshell, the reason Spawn is a horror character, of course, is because he kind of like is almost like a zombie. He's undead. It's a Faustian deal gone wrong. Well, I mean, doesn't it ever go right? You know.
Yeah.
The whole concept is Al Simmons is a mercenary who dies and is given a deal by the demon devil Malboja. He basically he's told he can see his beloved wife Wanda, and again in return for selling his soul to the devil and leading the Hell's armies in their battle against heaven.
Yeah.
Of course, it screws with him, and he ends up on Earth with half a mind and burnt skin and etc. etc. But he ends up with also superpowers and out of the deal. So I think when we get to the movie, I'll talk a little bit more about how that
we've got a lot of
compares.
thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, because we've got three different. Well, we've got a lot more than three, but we've got three different. Todd McFarlane himself said, "Why would I make it the exact same story? Because it would be boring."
That was a great article. In fact, I think of this every time I hear fanboys complain about them changing stuff for other media because. When the movie came out and they were interviewing him and he said the story's going to be different. We're changing it up. And it's different than the cartoon, which is different than the comic book because, you know, why? Even as a creator, why would I just want to make the same thing over and over again? It's boring for me as a creator.
Right, and it gives him the chance to tweak. Like, the stuff that he's like, hey, when I did this in the comic, this sucked, so let me try it over here.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, look at George Lucas. He keeps on messing with it.
Well, yeah, okay, that's totally not the same thing. But one of the things Todd McFarlane did say was, it's like, why did you as an audience, you know, if the comic book was exactly the same as the movie, was exactly the same as the cartoon, then why would you bother with the other ones?
Right?
Why would you bother watching the cartoon?
And it's fun for people to watch all of them that way.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, what's different between these guys?
Yeah, and it was really interesting for us just to review them this week, to see, to remind myself, I had to refresh myself on some of the stuff, but also, to see how it differed was interesting. In the
right? Well,
interpretation.
It encapsulates the transition that I really like to talk about with, like, people who have seen the movies or seen TV shows and want to integrate into comics. Is that for me, it's like, yeah, this was cool, but this was cooler. Mm-hmm. And if you want to learn about more of this stuff, then watch this. This is cooler. So you end up backsliding from just watching Spawn the movie to you can go on HBO Max and watch the cartoon. If you think this was
we actually
great,
watched a couple episodes before.
We did
just to refresh our memories. It still holds up.
All right, so
this is the fascination we want to bring out
for kids. Not for kids.
Jesus Christ, no! So don't watch this if you're a child, please.
It's Spawn and other media. Yes, HBO. You cannot talk about Spawn and other media without the HBO Spawn cartoon. Now, here's the really cool thing about this: is Spawn had only.
This was groundbreaking. This cartoon was groundbreaking.
It was.
I could tell.
It was amazing. And I mean, from not just from story point of view, but from production point of view, I mean, they put money into it. It was promoted well. Yeah. But the really amazing thing to remember is that this is 1997 when this cartoon came out on HBO.
Remember, I told you to remember 1992 when Spawn first appeared.
So only 5 years. 5 years for this relatively new character. This is how big of a splash Spawn made. Is that it was only 5 years for this to happen. And, I mean... And
you also have to realize that it takes at least 2 to 3 years to make an animated series like this.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, same year, we have Spawn, the movie
The
with
movie.
Michael J. White, which we'll talk about tomorrow.
We'll talk
Yes.
about but the cartoon tonight was groundbreaking. It was very adult. Had a lot of anime influences. It took a lot of that amazing production value that I talked about with the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, McFarlane may have had an ego, but man, he earned it with the composition and the style and seeing that stuff translate.
I mean, it had
into
nudity. It had
animation.
a lot of blood. And,
Oh
No,
my
I
god.
could have done without the nudity personally. I didn't
No,
think that
I
added.
hear you.
That was
but I'm
more
just
of
saying.
a
But-
yeah, but it's interesting because I'm so basically I am a 90s child. I grew up during the 90s edgy period, and it's like we are desensitized now. But
Even the cussing in the cartoon
it was still pretty bold.
it was pretty bold, and it was a little bit more than the comic, but it was there in the comic book. Yeah, they didn't. They started out or bleeped it basically.
Yeah.
You know, they had what
Right.
I call
Asterisks.
or Hubert cursing, what I would call it, where it's just like yeah, it's an ASCII stream. But it still was there. There was
It
in
was
the comics.
shocked.
It was
Yeah.
in the comics. So
There were bits that even shocked me, and my tolerance is pretty high. Like,
Yeah.
for context, when we talk about this cartoon, and again, I emphasize, for the love of God, if you are a child, please don't watch this. Don't let your child watch
don't let
this.
your child watch this. But
Thinking it's going to be Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a guy kills a dude, rips his head off, and then uses his head to write on the wall with blood.
Right.
Which was, oh my god.
But the roots of the horror aspects were there in the comic book, and they picked up on them, and it expanded, of course, for adult television, and it was its own unique thing as well.
Well, I think it's very, very key to point out that this was on HBO.
Yes,
This is
It
an
was not
yeah.
on any type of
and which is really interesting.
network
Now we
TV
have
or
a lot. We have a lot of stuff like The Boys and everything, taking advantage of premium cable.
Yeah,
format.
HBO's the dirty channel.
Yeah, it's
always been the dirty
Yeah, we
channel.
get
I'm
that
sorry.
nowadays. Like the new season of Doom Patrol just came out, and I love it. I could do without the cussing and some of the violence and some of the gore in that, but at the same time, I understand, that adult edginess. But this is really the progenitor of that taking that step in
But
that
I think
direction
that
for
I
superhero
hesitate to say
for
stuff
superhero
because
content.
I hesitate to talk about it. But basically, I think that the thing that really sells the Spawn cartoon is the writing. The writing
Oh,
is
yes.
really
It
good.
is, yeah.
And yes, you have the ultra violence, and you have all the but I mean, at
But
the
it's
same time,
not
it is telling a
completely
story.
gratuitous.
Yes,
No,
exactly. And
yeah.
it's all informing the story. Whereas I feel like a lot of the stuff, like The Boys, is just
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, and
and it's like, they're doing stuff because they're like, wouldn't it be cool if? Wouldn't it be cool if?
And
it's like,
that's
no,
one of
I
the
don't
things
find
that I
cool at all.
complain about a lot when it comes to some of the modern, violent, edgy stuff is that it's you're having people that are seeing stuff that came before, like Spawn, and not understanding fully why it worked.
Yeah.
Right? Because they
Thinking-
make it gratuitous.
They think that it's the blood and the gore and the violence that people liked, and like, no, that added to it, but that wasn't that. You're putting the cart before the horse,
Yeah.
and it really that needs to be
right.
an aspect of it, not the central part of it, And like I said, it's the difference between being, adult and edgy and just being vulgar, and I don't think sometimes they know the difference.
Right. It's a combo of like, it adds to the griminess because this is a very grimy type of thing. Like, yes, you have your high fantasy elements of, all the hellspawn and all of that, but, this is a guy who literally the only way he can exist without people running away in terror is living on the streets as a homeless person.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be grimy, but like, they don't dwell on the gore, they don't dwell on the violence as much until it's needed. So it's like, no, the mobsters are going to come in, they're gonna kill people, but like, the shots are obscured in shadow.
Yeah,
Or
they're not
like-
all stripped, yeah.
Yeah, or if you see them shoot somebody and you see the blood, it's like you're not gonna see it for very long. You're not gonna see you're not gonna see them get like shot in the face or something like that.
And it's a creative, artistic representation of it.
Yeah, the only time they come back is when like the detectives have to come back and see how crazy of a scene it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
And I love that. I thought
it's
that
a
was
quick
really great.
shot of
Because
stuff.
it also shows, like, some of, well, I hesitate to say that, but I mean, basically it shows, you know, the horror that police officers have to deal with.
Yeah, like
They have
it's
to come in
shocking.
afterwards.
Yeah. I think
And they
that's
have
what a
to
lot
come
of
in
people
and,
miss
try to
is
figure out what happened and clean up afterwards and all
Right,
that.
because yeah, you have that scene and you don't process it, and then you have like the regular people walking up and seeing like a man burnt to a crisp and a guy whose head's through a windshield, and they're like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
Like that, it adds to the story because we're having to watch like him work in the shadows and then the other person close in. Like it's one of those. Yeah, no, we're not. It's like, and they do it not necessarily without dwell, which this is a personal thing of mine.
Yeah.
They don't dwell on the suffering of the homeless people. Like even when homeless people die in this, like it's, you get your moment of mourning with them, but it's not like what's that movie, A Clockwork Orange,
Oh,
where you
yeah.
really have to watch them
Yeah,
suffer,
yeah.
or like American Psycho, where you really have to watch the guy suffer.
Yeah.
Like they treat them with relative respect, actually.
Yeah.
Like it is a, oh my god, this guy who was our friend got shot in the alleyway.
Like
What
what
a
you were
tragedy.
saying while we were watching it. It was like the only good people in this is
The
the
homeless
homeless
people.
people.
are the
Yeah.
homeless people.
Yeah. The only
Yeah.
one treating people with respect,
Respect
and
and
with
kindness, yeah.
is the homeless people.
Yeah, they
And I
don't
think
deserve
that's one of the
this.
things that a lot of the modern, edgy, dark stuff misses is that you only have darkness
They're missing
in
happy.
contrast to the light.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to have it. If you don't have that balance, then it's
There
just
isn't as much impact.
it doesn't have as much impact. Exactly, and I think that's why something like Spawn worked, is because you saw the other side of that. You saw the compassion, and you see Spawn.
You see the
having-
innocent people.
You see him as people, and he has to learn to remind himself. He could turn into this monster. He could completely go and just eviscerate everybody. He could become what he was meant to be, a hell spawn.
Yeah.
If it weren't for people to ground him and something positive and that light to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that made it. And of course, we can't talk about how amazing it was without talking about the voice actor, Keith David.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of amused me because if you're not looking directly at it and you're hearing it, because of course Keith David was the voice of Goliath in the Gargoyles animated show.
Right.
And yes, he was darker and grittier and that, but it was not this level.
Right, for kids my age, he's been grandpa as long as
He's got more of a stern grandpa voice in Gargoyles. He's got,
Yeah.
but in this, it kind of threw me a couple times. I'm like, wow, he's truly scary. And it's like, if you've ever
They
seen
get him to say some lines.
if you've ever seen Keith David, the actor, especially when he's in stuff, he has a tendency to do a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
He's very
He's
funny.
got a gentle grandpa look.
And he's got a very gentle grandpa look. He does
Yeah.
not look like either of these characters at
Yeah.
all. Like the most recent thing I've seen him on, have you seen Future Man?
Yes.
And so it's like, sometimes trying to reconcile your brain, these are the same actor, it can throw you.
Right.
Talking about voice actors, one of my
Is it-
favorite actresses out there right now,
Yes.
Ming Wan In,
Ming-Na
is actually
Ming-Na
voiced
Wen.
Jade in it.
And she was in it. She was Jade, one of the other side characters. I didn't know she was voice acting all the way back then. This is was this before or after Mulan? When did Mulan come out?
Look it up.
Look it up.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know.
Fact check.
I don't know.
fact
The
check.
last 20 years have been a blur.
She's been acting forever. When it was just Ming-Na before she got married.
2004.
2004.
Wait,
So this-
nope. 1998.
98.
That was
so-
Mulan 2. For some reason, it did Mulan 2 first.
Oh, so it was not long after this that she did Mulan. I love the joke going around that Ming-Na is the only one to have pulled off the Disney hat trick. She was a Disney princess, and a Star Wars character, and a Marvel character.
Yeah.
So she's got all three.
That's true.
She's got all three.
That's true.
So anyway, yes. So it's important to know her, and a lot of other good voice actors. The voice cast. Some of them are just regular voices you've heard in other things, but it,
Well, I
it
mean,
worked.
some of them were really shocking because I looked at the voice cast and I was like, oh, that guy.
I know,
was
I
like,
know.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is amazing to see what people are like integrated into our modern stuff because it goes
Well,
farther back
if we're
than you
talking
think.
McFarlane, I really kind of feel like we need to talk about McFarlane Toys because McFarlane Toys right now is on fire.
And I know, and they're still getting big. I can't believe they
Are they
managed to
really?
get so much. Well, yeah. Okay, so hold on. We'll go back. Put a pin on that.
Back check.
Put a pin
For
on
anybody who's like, what?
that. Okay, so you got to remember one of the funny
1994.
94. So one of the
That's
funny,
2 years after Spawn comes out,
he starts his own toy company. Now,
and with 6 Spawn figures.
the 6 Spawn figures. Hold on. You got to back up. So remember how we've talked about Marvel filing bankruptcy,
Oh,
and the thing with Marvel is that they had Avi Arad. They had licensed their characters out to be made by this toy manufacturer, Toy Biz, which was owned by this Arabian businessman, Avi Arad. And so when Marvel filed for bankruptcy, Avi Arad took the money that he had from license of toys, because they were making more money off the toys than the publication of the comic books at the time, believe it or not. And he came and restructured Marvel, and he bought Marvel and helped bring them out of bankruptcy. And that's when he started selling out on the animation to make all of the action figures, and he actually started building up that pretty big. Well, McFarlane, he's like, well, rather than license out my characters to a toy company, he's like, Marvel is doing amazing having their own in-house toy company, and why don't I do that myself?
And this was a big thing in the 90s as well. There was a lot of other, like, independent, like, little toy companies popping up.
Oh, yeah, More Action Collectibles.
Lots of money.
I remember More Action Collectibles. Claiborne Moore did all of the Buffy stuff that was really cool and everything. And McFarlane, he kind of sold the idea to his co-creators in Image. And he's like, I will also make some of your figures. So he started with his, 6 Spawn figures. And then whereas the other people, they're like, if you invest and let me make a figure for your characters, I know there was a Max figure and a couple of other there was Savage Dragon.
I want to say he also did
Wildstorm.
He did 4 horror figures. He did Frankenstein with a whole Frankenstein set.
Well,
he did
yes.
Dracula with the set. And
he had the Mummy. So hold on. So the thing is he got these other ones and started them up, and to pad his stuff, he also got some of the monsters because they were public domain characters.
Yes,
the Universal monsters.
Not the Universal ones. He couldn't make them look like the Universal ones.
The generic brand.
The generic monsters.
Generic brand horror, not Universal monsters.
Yes.
I actually had several of those.
So when I was going to college, I had a pet tarantula, and her name was Isis, of the Egyptian goddess, and I had the terrarium set up like an Egyptian desert, and for her terrarium, I actually had the Todd McFarlane Mummy diorama set in there.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Set up, and it was really cool because I had the little feeding tube where the crickets went through. I made like a little sacrificial altar, and then the crickets all fell to the sacrificial altar.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute!
For the tarantula. When she died, I actually sealed her inside of the mummy sarcophagus.
That is the dirtiest thing ever.
So I
love it.
So I still have that place set with my tarantulas.
Yeah,
So anyway, yes, those were really particularly cool. And what made them so cool was the same amount of artistic care and detail that went into the comic books went into the toys. They put so much detail in so many of these little things that it blew, just like the comics the Image comics had shown something new that collectors and had never seen before. McFarlane Toys did the same thing. They were highly detailed.
Right here, you have a McFarlane toy right here.
It's fantastic.
So this is really funny, a new one, because my best friend got this for me, because he remembered when I first got the first McFarlane Spawn, which was very similar to this. This is basically an update homage to the very first McFarlane Toys Spawn figure, and it's done in the same kind of pose and everything, but with modern pieces and modern styling and even more detail, and it's beautiful. It's just a piece of art.
It's so
It is a piece of art. And McFarlane Toys, one of the things that they had going for them is you had these sculptors who were so well done, who were so meticulous that there were these 4 sculptors that they ended up forming a group called the Four Horsemen. And then they went on to move from McFarlane to, from McFarlane Toys, they moved on to the 2000s He-Man toys. And so for years they worked for Mattel for like several different kinds of He-Man toys.
No wonder those look so good.
Yes, they basically formed their own company, and they work for different licensing. I don't know who they're working for now, but they have this amazing Kickstarter set that you can get only from them, and it's like this whole fantasy set that is just like beautiful. Like I can't explain. Look up the Four Horsemen and their Kickstarter action figures. Like if I were rich and I had money to blow, I would have every one of these things. They're so amazing to look at. But the Four Horsemen, starting at Todd McFarlane, I made a big deal with that. I know when I worked at F.A.O. Schwartz Toy Store, it was right when McFarlane started getting other licenses. So he started getting movie licenses. He made the first Evil Dead action figure I have, Ash from the Evil Dead, I have his McFarlane one. Because of the monster movies, that's where it went from. It went from the movie monsters to classics horror. So he managed to get Ash from the Evil Dead. It was actually Army of Darkness because there was a regular one and then the zombie version. And then he got Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger.
What?
And yes, so he started doing classic movie horror icons. And then he moved from there to other movies. He had the license for...
right now he's even doing DC.
Well, that's the thing. Is he's been doing it for so long and doing such an amazing job of it, he finally pulled around, and once Mattel lost the master license for DC, he's got the master license for DC.
He was like, I'll take
and
it.
So all the new
like he
DC
was saying,
stuff
one of the cool stuff about McFarlane Toys is that if they release a Batman, usually there's like 3 versions of that Batman that has like different aspects, so that you may want to collect all 3.
Yep.
Or there might be one that you like better. Yeah. And it may be a different paint. It may be like I know, like for this figure right here, this Spawn figure, his head comes off and he's got a new head.
Got a new head.
But this was a very special Kickstarter one, if I'm
yes,
right.
that was a Kickstarter one.
But most of the time, you would have to buy another figure to have, like, Batman without the mask or the cowl.
Oh yeah, like he would do chase paints of some of the, like, I know he made up some random, like, what ifs for the toy line. Some of them actually would make it into the comics. I know the Mandarin Spawn made it into the comics, but when me and Bo first got together, I know he had the Mandarin Spawn. It was beautiful. I don't know whatever happened to that one, but the new Mandarin Spawn that just came out, it's like jaw-dropping, the detail of it. You can get that one at like Hot Topic, I think now, and stuff like it's just like amazing, the details. The toys are they're like I said, they're pieces of art. But not only did he blow it up with the toys, I mean, this was unheard of, the momentum that Spawn had just right out the gate. 1995, and he's already got a video game.
Yeah, like seeing them lined up with each other, man, he worked fast.
It worked fast.
Spawn, the video game for Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo.
And
I never played
Spawn
it.
Eternal and the Eternal Japan only, PlayStation 2, 1997. No, that was PlayStation. 1997, and then Spawn Armageddon on the PS2 in 2002. And Soul Calibur 3 and Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, he popped up in Mortal Kombat.
So yes, he was so popular that other companies paid to have him like transport in there, and he was a skin because he was a guest star in Soul Calibur 3, and then they brought him on as a guest star in Mortal Kombat 11 in 2020.
Yeah.
So I mean, he got a lot of play for a guy who had just been created in 1992. Boy.
Right, and that's just one character too.
One character. Yeah, a lot of the Image stuff managed to get stuff. I mean, I know.
So tomorrow is going to be really fun because we're going to talk about the movie with Michael J. White, but that's also going to lead us into some of the stuff for the comics.
Yes, I'm kind of holding off on a little bit of the comics because it would be repetitive. Basically, it's easier to tell you what happened in the comics, like I said, to compare and contrast to the other media. So
yes,
yeah, because also at the same time, there's some things that are fun little tidbits that pop up because of the movies and because of the cartoon and different things like that.
As well as the licensing. Because the thing you got to remember that makes Spawn so unique is that Todd McFarlane has complete creative control over the character. It's not like Marvel or DC, who has to go through executives and whoever owns the master license from the character versus whoever owns the license from the production company, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to go through all that.
So no deals with Sony in order to get Spider-Man to show up in your Marvel movie.
Exactly.
Even though your parent company
owns
Marvel
it.
created the character.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to rent his own character back.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so that was our Spawn in the Momentum Part 2. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Spawn in the movies. We'll catch you ahead.
Remember our Patreon and also bradsredweb.com to see past episodes
All right.
and future episodes.
Future episodes.
Yes.
And episodes all over the place.
Yes.
Are they tricks or are they treats? I think
Multiversal episodes.
Yeah.
The
Take care,
episodes
guys.
of which we would have made. Bye. I'll see you later.